Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 3rd, 2026 North Carolina State Board of Education meeting. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Delighted to welcome all board members and advisors, staff, on-site visitors, and online listeners, and social media followers. Remember, you can follow the North Carolina State Board of Education on social media at edstateboard_NC. You can also follow the State Board meetings online and see our materials by going to SBE meetings at www.dpi.nc.gov. I'll remind the audience and those listening that this body meets monthly with its official meeting scheduled for the first Thursday of the month, which is today. Discussion of agenda items were held yesterday prior to the official meeting date. Board members, you're reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record, and if during the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. At this time, I turn to my colleague, Ms. Caddy Moore, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Good morning. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now turn to our favorite part of every monthly meeting, which is when we recognize the students, teachers, and educators across our state that make our public school system so successful and give our students a great start in life. And for the first recognitions, I'll turn to Dr. Charles Aiken for these recognitions. Dr. Aiken.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, board members. So I think a little bit less than 18 hours ago, you got a chance to hear me come to you and share a presentation about math standards. And a key refrain in that we've talked about in connection with our strategic plan is standards to students. So yesterday was about the standards, and today's about the students. I have the honor and the privilege of being here to be a part of recognizing 13 schools from across our state that exemplify that concept, taking content standards and elevating them with purpose for our students. These educators in these schools have excelled and have worked diligently to deliver a high quality, globally sound education, and they go above and beyond in their efforts to bring life to standards for their students. As we start our recognition, the North Carolina STEM School of Distinction program is grateful for the leadership of Dr. Stacy Wilson Norman, Dr. Christy Day, Mr. Trey Michael, and many others. This program has managed to continue through the many years, and thanks to partnerships with groups like the North Carolina Science, Math, and Technology Center, the Burroughs Welcome Fund, the Friday Institute, the Golden Leaf Foundation, and the North Carolina Association for Career and Technical Education. In collaboration with the agency, each of these partners have contributed their time, funding, and resources to help us continue offering expansive STEM support across our state. In particular, today, I'd also like to thank and extend an additional thank you to our superintendents and district leaders, many of whom made the effort to be here with their schools. Without your support and the confidence that you place in your principals, your teachers, your students, and your community members, we could not be here today. The schools celebrated go beyond teaching academic content. They empower students to become the next generation of problem solvers, innovators, and creators. They exemplify the push to provide applied learning beyond the four walls of a classroom, outside, and beyond into the community. They leverage their student input. They design learning opportunities connecting real-world local phenomena, and they partner with community members, catapulting students' educational experiences to new heights. These schools have been striving to operate with the high levels of performance and achievement outlined in the North Carolina STEM Progress Rubric. To provide some context for this program and how it models our strategic plan, I want to point out one additional individual, Mr. Howard Ginsburg, to the point that this summer, the Smithsonian Institution asked him to be a faculty member in a project they are working on to expand STEM schools of distinction across this country. Mr. Ginsburg is a member of the Math, Science, and STEM team. He serves as our integrative specialist, and he is as we always say that phrase, the Ohio State. Well, he is the organizer, facilitator, and champion of this program. He is a coach, a mentor, and guide for every school that starts down this path. So, Mr. Ginsburg, thank you for what you do. Now, since we have filled the gallery, to our honored guests representing the 13 schools today. So this process can be a multi-year process for most of our schools. It is a very rigorous, multi-level peer review requiring detailed self-evaluations, submissions of an array of documentation, and on-site visits. We are proud to present these schools as having demonstrated the prepared or model level of achievement and earning the designation as a North Carolina STEM School of Distinction. There are actually 3 categories of recognition. Initial recognitions are granted for first-time awardees and carries a 3-year term. Renewals follow that initial recognition as a one-time opportunity for schools to attest to their continued commitment and extend their prior recognition for an additional 3 years. And the last level of recognition are those who have already had their certification renewed and would now like to seek redesignation. This involves a full reevaluation, examining that school's sustained culture and STEM excellence, and the qualifying still has to go through that same full peer review that they did for their initial recognition. So, we'd like to begin by acknowledging 4 schools that have renewed their previous designations. We want to thank these schools for their continued commitment to sustaining rigorous work and dedication to being STEM schools. I don't believe any of the schools were able to be here today, but I do want to make sure that I recognize them aloud. From the Northwest Region, District 7, representing McDowell County, we want to recognize Foothills Community School for renewing their model designation. From the Southwest Region, District 6 and Cabarrus County Schools, R. Brown McAllister STEM Elementary has renewed their model designation. From Northeast Region 1, Pitt County Schools, Welcome Middle School has renewed their prepared designation. And also from Northeast Region 1, from Pitt County Schools again, Eastern Elementary also renewing their prepared designation. And now we would like to spotlight our schools that earned their initial designations, and we would invite them to come up to be recognized. And we're going to try to do this by regions. So, from Northeast Region, District 1, representing Perquimans County Schools and Superintendent Dr. Sean Wilson, Hertford Grammar School earned prepared recognition. Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations, Hereford Grammar School. Also, from Northeast Region, District 1, representing Pitt County Schools and Superintendent Dr. Steve Lassiter, we'd like to bring up Northwest Elementary School receiving their prepared recognition. We have two schools representing the Southwest region, in particular Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Schools and Superintendent Dr. Crystal Hill. I think first up we have Oakhurst, or is it Ray? Ray Farms STEAM Academy, which earned a prepared level recognition. Congratulations. Also from Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Schools, we'd like to make sure we recognize Oakhurst STEAM Academy, also earning a prepared level recognition. Okay, continuing with those schools that earned their initial designations, this time for those who earned model. From the North Central Region, District 3, representing Nash County Schools and Superintendent Dr. Stephen Ellis, we'd like to bring up J.R. Edwards Elementary School. Congratulations for earning model recognition. Also from Nash County Schools, we want to make sure we recognize Red Oak Elementary, which earned a model recognition. And also out of the North Central District 3, representing Wilson Public Schools and Superintendent Dr. Ben Williams, we'd like to recognize Rock Ridge Elementary for earning their model designation. And before we bring up our last two schools, I do want to make a note. These last two schools have gone through the redesignation process, which means they have been seeking and going down this path for nearly a decade. These two schools that the board will see next have been working and maintaining their recognitions since 2017. So, in honor of our last two schools, I'd like to first recognize from the Southeast Region, District 2, representing Greene County Public Schools and Superintendent Rodney McNeil, Greene County Middle School, which has been redesignated as a prepared school for STEM Schools of Distinction. And our second school that has received their redesignation from the Piedmont Triad Region, District 5, representing Davidson County Schools and Superintendent Dr. Greg Slate, we'd like to recognize Yadkin Valley Regional Career Academy for being redesignated a model school. Congratulations.
Good morning. I am going to apologize for my French pronunciation right now, but thankfully our students and the educators that we're recognizing today make up for that. It is my pleasure today to recognize 3 outstanding North Carolina students who earned national honors in the 2026 American Association of Teachers of French National Jeune Ami du Français Poetry Recitation Contest. JAF is the National French Honor Society for elementary, middle, and junior high students. Its annual poetry contest gives young French learners from across the country an opportunity to demonstrate not only their language skills, but also their creativity and ability to connect meaningfully with another language and culture. And for the competition, students select and memorize a poem in French and submit a video of their recitation. Their performances require much more than memorization. They must use eye contact, tone, and gestures to bring the poem to life for their audience. They also respond in English to an important question: what does this poem mean to you? Entries from across the country are evaluated on memorization, French pronunciation and fluency, performance, and artistic interpretation, making these national honors an impressive accomplishment. This year, Percy Joy Boateng received 3rd place nationally for her entry. Percy Joy is a student in Wake County Public Schools, and we also recognize her French teacher, Lisa Bartles, whose instruction and encouragement helped support this achievement. We are equally proud to recognize Addison Lambert and Dhruv Patil, who received National Honorable Mention Awards for their entries. Addison and Dhruv attend Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. We also recognize their French teacher, Moena Dabla, for supporting these students to developing their language skills and confidence necessary to compete on a national stage. These awards represent much more than successful memorization of a poem. They demonstrate the students' linguistic skill, their confidence, their creativity, and willingness to communicate across language and cultures. And their accomplishments also highlight the excellent world language instruction taking place in North Carolina public schools. So to our students, congratulations on representing your schools, your districts, and the state of North Carolina with such distinction. And to our teachers, thank you for inspiring and preparing the next generation of multilingual and globally engaged North Carolinians. It is also my pleasure today to recognize an exceptional North Carolina educator and this year's recipient of the English Language Development Recognition Award, or ERA. The ERA was created to honor the extraordinary work of North Carolina public school ESL teachers who advance the academic, linguistic, and personal success of multilingual learners. Now in its third year, the award directly supports two pillars of our strategic plan. Pillar 2, revere public school educators, and Pillar 7, celebrate the excellence in public education. The selection process for this award was designed by language educators from districts and charter schools across our state in consultation with the NCDPI ML Title III team. And each candidate submits a portfolio demonstrating excellence in 4 areas: pedagogy, teacher leadership, student impact, and vision for multilingual learner education. This year, we are delighted to recognize Audrey Vinson from Orange County Schools as the recipient of the ERA. Audrey's work demonstrates what is possible when multilingual learners are held to high expectations and provided with meaningful support. Her impact reaches well beyond her classroom. Through project-based learning, district curriculum mapping, school-wide vocabulary routines, family engagement through cafecitos, student-led bilingual school tours, and professional presentations at both the state and national levels, she has strengthened student learning while also advancing the culture of ELD across her school and district. A colleague who nominated Audrey described her as instrumental in district-level systemic improvements, including aligning the standard course of study with the ELD standards. She has worked collaboratively with grade-level teams to seamlessly integrate ELD best practices into daily classroom instruction, ensuring language development is embedded across all content areas, that students are gaining practice in writing, speaking, listening, and reading. That colleague went on to call her a distinguished educator and a tireless advocate for multilingual families. Audrey describes her work as an effort to foster a school culture where every teacher views themselves as a teacher of language. In her words, she stated, "Ultimately, my vision is for the future of ML education, is a future of multilingualism, and is celebrated as a community asset." That vision of high expectations, shared responsibility, and multilingualism as an asset is worthy of celebration and reflects the very purpose of this award. On behalf of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, it is my privilege to congratulate Audrey Vinson, our 2026 ELD Recognition Award recipient.
Well, congratulations to all of our students and teachers. You just proved that there are amazing things happening every day in public schools across North Carolina, and we just celebrate with you every day. So thanks so much. Speaking of celebrations, it's appropriate that we celebrate one of our own. We are proud to recognize Mr. J. Wendell Hall of Hertford County, a native whose extraordinary career in public education spans nearly 6 decades. Last month, the Hertford County Board of Commissioners presented Wendell with its Hometown Hero Award for extraordinary service. Beginning as a classroom teacher in 1968, Mr. Hall has served students and communities as an educator, administrator, superintendent, longtime member of the Hertford County Board of Education, and in 2019, he made history as the first Hertford County resident appointed to the North Carolina State Board of Education. Throughout his career, Mr. Hall has remained steadfast in his commitment to children, education, and public service. His leadership has touched countless lives across Hertford County and throughout North Carolina. His example as a mentor, role model, and trailblazer continues to inspire us all. We proudly recognize you, Wendell, and we thank you for your remarkable lifetime of service and dedication to our community and state.
I can tell you this, when he gets back home, they ain't gonna believe it.
Well, it's real. They better believe it. And for our last recognition, we have a unique opportunity to celebrate a community in our state who has proven the power of public support for their public schools. The past couple years, this community's schools faced a tremendous crisis, and the citizens of this community, ably led by some passionate public school champions, lifted their district up to a new day. And so to tell us about that new day, from Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Board of Education, we're delighted to welcome Chair Kaplan, Vice Chair Bohannon, and Superintendent Phipps, and any other board members that may be with you.
Okay.
Welcome, Chair Kaplan.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Davis and members of the State Board of Education. Thank you for inviting us to be here and for allowing us to share what is truly a story about the power of community. Joining me today are our Vice Chair Alex Bohannon and Susan Miller, the Chair of our Curriculum Committee. Thank you both for being here. And while the rest of our board could not join us, I want to recognize every member of our Board of Education. Each one helped to carry the weight of extraordinarily difficult decisions while remaining committed to our students, our employees, and the stability of our school system. This moment belongs to all of them. The first time that I stood before this board, our district faced a deficit of more than $45 million, owed money to the state, and had very real questions about how we would move forward. I remember being asked, "What is your plan?" And part of my answer was, we are going to ask our community to help, and we're going to fundraise. And I think it is fair to say that there was some doubt that we could raise that kind of money, the money that we needed. But our community did it. And through the extraordinary generosity of individuals, businesses, foundations, and community leaders, more than $11 million was raised to support our school district. And with the support of the Education Foundation and the Winston-Salem Foundation, that support met critical school needs, and it helped to retire our debt from the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Our county commissioners also stepped forward, matching a portion of the community gifts to help us satisfy the debt that we owed to our county. It was a community-wide response, and it was built around one shared belief that our children and our public schools were worth investing in. I also want to thank the State Board for your steady support and guidance throughout this process, and particularly you, Chairman Davis. Your enthusiastic and supportive weekly calls meant more than you probably ever realized. You checked on us, you encouraged us, and offered guidance through some of our most difficult days. Most importantly, you reminded us that we were not navigating this crisis alone. So thank you for that. We must also acknowledge what it took to reach this moment. Our employees, our families, our community, and our board endured tremendous stress. There were rifts, there were furloughs, and there were reductions in central services, and those painful decisions affected real people, real families, and individuals who had devoted themselves to our school system. We should never celebrate where we are today without honoring what it took and the people who sacrificed to get there. But through it all, we stayed together, and today we are on the other side. Our budget is balanced. We have rebuilt a healthy fund balance. Our district is stronger and it's more resilient. And I believe our community is stronger than ever. Two extraordinary leaders helped guide us through this journey. Kathy Moore stepped up in a critical moment, and she gave our district the experienced, steady leadership that it needed. Kathy, thank you. Your strength and willingness to serve helped stabilize our district and restore confidence and move us forward, and we are deeply grateful. I will never forget you. Thank you. And then Dr. Don Phipps took that work forward with tremendous energy, focus, and optimism. And while restoring financial stability was essential, Don has kept our attention where it ultimately belongs, and that is our students. And perhaps most remarkably, in a year when we might have expected academic results to decline, our educators kept showing up. And our educators faced budget cuts, staffing reductions, uncertainty, and tremendous stress. Yet every day, they continued to teach and care for our children. And our students grew, and our test scores went up. And that speaks volumes about the extraordinary educators and staff of our Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. In one of the most difficult periods our district has ever experienced, they never lost sight of our children. So today, we come before you simply not to celebrate more than $11 million that was raised. We come to celebrate community. We celebrate a community that was asked to step forward and did, a board that faced difficult decisions and kept moving forward, employees who sacrificed, educators who never stopped showing up for children, and community, foundations, county, and state partners who believed in us. We celebrate a school district that has come through an extraordinary, challenging time, and we're stronger, we're more resilient, and we're ready for what comes next. So on behalf of our entire board and district, I want to thank everyone who helped us to reach this moment. And thank you to the state board for standing along with us. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our superintendent, Don Phipps, who will share more about where our district stands today and the encouraging growth and achievement of our students. Don?
Thank you very much. If I may, I'd like to tell a story. And the story is from a perspective that you just can't get if you're just reading news clips. And I think you have to be in and among the body of individuals that make up a school system. And as we're talking about community, that certainly begins with our students and extends to our teachers, our support staff, administrators, parents and guardians, and then individuals that make up our community. And the key for me, the value of collaboration with the community and the resulting community support is critical for school system success. Across the state, we're scratching and clawing to get that type of support. And it took something, I don't want to say it took something, in the middle of something that was so difficult to have to deal with, we had community members that stood up and wanted to know how they could help. They didn't tell us what we needed. They wanted to know what we needed, and then they were able to find a way to make that happen. The community support and collaboration and what is yielded from that couldn't be more evident than what we've seen in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. And I want to take you back. Caddy, I hate to do this, But when I talk about these stories are real life stories that almost bring back traumatic stress because of what you have to experience. And when you're on the ground and you're dealing with the individuals whose lives are being impacted, and so many questions are out there and you don't know what's going to happen, and there's so much uncertainty, folks are just looking for any glimmer of hope. And Caddy came in at a time and made difficult decisions that didn't make her the most popular person in the world, but had to be done. And when you look at it, the success that we've got and the fact that we're able to have the story to tell today is because of difficult decisions led by Caddy and the folks that were in our school system, our board, and the community pulling that together. But on September 12th of last year, and you all may remember headlines, but you don't remember the details. We'll remember every detail because we were living it and know what really was involved with it. There were many employees would no longer be part of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools team because of a reduction in force that was necessitated by a financial crisis. You're all aware of the story right now. But as I stand before you 1 year later, nearly 1 year later from that date, I want to finish that chapter of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County story and turn the page. The story's not over. This is just a chapter of the big story, and what we want to do is turn the page, and I feel like we're at that point. Collaboration in our case consists of time, talent, money, and positive words, as little as that may seem. In a time of crisis, the folks that would pat you on the back, send you a note, make a phone call, and just make a positive remark to you when you needed that more than anything else is more uplifting than I can express. This has been incredibly important as we've worked our way through processes made necessary by the financial crisis. The process that was undertaken involved addressing the major issues based on priorities and then dealing with things as they presented themselves, some planned but many not. It was evident that the community, when informed, was very helpful in each step of the process, and the outcome was not always something that the community members liked, but they could understand it in the grand scheme of what needed to be done. Financial challenges seemed insurmountable as the debt numbers rose, and you heard that earlier, over $40 million. When we can't create revenue, how in the world are we going to get $40 million? And I know I was sitting in another district when I heard the board's response was, we're going to ask for our community to support us and we're going to do fundraising. And my response was, good luck with that. And how much of that can you really get? Well, the community stepped up, and our board and the folks in Winston-Salem Forsyth County knew what kind of community we had. As difficult operational decisions were made, one ripple after another extended and stretched across our school system. The impacts were real. And at this point, again, I want to say to Caddy Moore, the Hill Consulting Group, our Board of Education, and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County team members who implemented these difficult actions, thank you. Again, they were hard. Nobody wanted to do that, but it had to be done. There were deep impacts. There were lasting impacts. There were impacts that will change our system moving forward forever. Simply put, they were real. The damage sustained and the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness was tangible, as was the dreaded fear of when will the next shoe drop. There was little doubt that it would happen. The question was when. So everybody got up every morning, went to work, and just wondered what the next round of bad news was going to be. And you just can't function and thrive in that environment. It's terrible. As we were dealing with the loss of staff, we also had to deal with the loss of students as well. Trust was broken across our community. The system's reputation was taking a beating. All the while, an overriding question was, where do we find the money needed to write the debt ledger? Difficult decisions were made that impacted lives, families, and the professional work being done. There were also many jobs that weren't eliminated but were greatly impacted. Months of employment were decreased. Furlough days for central office team members were put into place. Again, this disrupted the cadence and flow of our work, but it was necessary. Please note that I'm not building up to a list of excuses as to why our system failed or why we deserve a pass for last school year. What I'm doing is providing the context for remarkable work done within our school system through the support of our community and wonderful team members. We lived under a deep, dark cloud last year, but there were great things happening underneath. I could see that when I came in December and wanted to really shine a light on the great things that were happening. But I believe there were many folks that were afraid to say positive things, either because they didn't feel like praising in the climate that we lived in or focusing on the pressing needs would be appropriate at that point in time. In many cases, I believe positivity and praise initiated by our team members would have been viewed as suspect, but it was obvious to me that great things were happening. What was happening on the financial front? Money was being raised. School supplies and materials provided. You heard that from our foundation support. Other needs of the schools being met, implementation of financial processes and procedures, oversight of the work, and better informed information provided to the board and to the public. This was happening on a regular basis. Now, you would say this should have been happening before, but it wasn't to the degree it was. And we had to address where we were and make sure that we turned that around. In the classrooms and in our schools, teachers were teaching. Chairman Davis and I had a conversation as we were talking about what our test results looked like, and his question to me was, how do you explain that in light of everything that was going on? And my response to him was, I believe there was so much pressure, and there was so much chatter, and there was so much disruption of what was going on in the climate around us, that teachers went into the classroom and they took control of the one thing they had control over. And that was what they do every day when they deliver instruction to our children, and they did that at a top-notch level. And the results, I think, this year show you that. So you may ask, what happened and where are we now in early September? I've talked about last year. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because the end result is one that we celebrated at our year-end closeout period as the debt was resolved, and we're now operating with a balanced budget and a healthy but not gaudy fund balance. And I told folks, if we could have $10 in our account at the end of the year and pay our debt off, I would consider that a positive result. And we'll have more than $10 in our account. But more importantly, we have the debt resolved and we're able to move forward. But there's more to celebrate. While the system trudged through the difficult times last year with what was happening inside schools was great teaching and support of teachers and students. The test score released yesterday could have been a time to hang our heads and make excuses, and I believe many would have understood that. But that was not the case. While there is much room for improvement, it is incredible that in the desperate times we dealt with, we can report extraordinary results. What this shows is that we're blessed to have quality people in the Winston-Salem, Forsyth County schools and across the communities that support us. And I want to just share a few highlights from yesterday. And I know we can dig into the details, and we will, and we'll talk about where we didn't hit the mark, and we'll talk about the work that needs to be done. But I want to focus on celebrating and lifting up the great things that we can report out of a terrible year. Our third grade reading scores are the highest point they've been in 10 years. Our four-year graduation rate is the second highest in our school system history. We had 6 schools that came off the low-performing list. We had one remarkable school that made remarkable improvement, going from an F to a C in 1 year. We have a school that's in the top 1% for academic growth. We have 2 schools that are in the top 4% of academic growth. We increased in 17 out of 20 measured areas in the academic roles that we look at. And all of our test scores now exceed pre-pandemic limits and levels. And I think to be able to say that coming out of what we've dealt with is just a hats off and a pat on the back to the individuals that are doing the work with students and supporting that work. And it's just a testament that we have wonderful educators in our system and across the state. And while pats on the back are warranted, and we have to focus on specific areas of strength and strong performance. This is a year when we say thank you to many people, our faculty and our staff, our students, our parents and guardians, and our community. I believe the results from the 25-26 school year allow us to move in the new academic year with promise and high expectations. Each year presents challenges and struggles, and there's no doubt that this current academic year will have some of its own, but we can be certain that we're not in this work alone. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Paula Wilkins, who's our Chief Academic Officer, just to close with a couple of remarks on academics. But I want to say thank you. Personally, the strength that you all provided for me and the support, thank you to what you've done that's been visible, but more importantly, the things that nobody sees that are so critical to lifting folks up and just being the wind behind us to be able to push us where we need to go. I'm grateful for you all, Caddy, eternally grateful, and can't imagine just the stress that you went through being there and seeing the cuts that had to be made. I told folks I felt like that Caddy had bought the dinner ingredients, and then I had to put it together and make it happen. And I could have never done that without the ingredients and the right recipe, and you did a marvelous job with that. So thank you. But Paula, if you'll come up.
Thank you, Dr. Phipps, and thank you, State Board of Education, for your continued support of Winston-Salem Forsyth County and Superintendent Green. I also echo and thank former Superintendent Caddy Moore for her support around academics, even in a very challenging time. She also challenged me as the Chief Academic Officer to focus on what was most important. So today, I want to take just a moment to just note we recognize that early on transforming literacy outcomes requires an unyielding commitment to the science of reading. And of course, I know the state board also agrees. As a cohort 1 district for letters training, our educators built a deep foundational knowledge in evidence-based instruction. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It must be backed by aligned, high-quality core curriculum. Last year, we took a critical first step, leveraging PRC 085 and local funding. We targeted initially our 3-5 intervention programs to support our older readers with the implementation of UFLY. They were slipping through the cracks. While those targeted interventions were vital, the data in our classrooms experiences made one truth undeniably clear. We can't intervene our way out of a core instructional problem. This year, through strong philanthropic partnerships with our Campaign for Grade Level Reading, the Winston-Salem Education Foundation, as well as Love Literacy and My Brother's Keeper, we are launching a district-wide K-3 core implementation of UFLY foundations to ensure every young learner receives a strong, explicit, and systematic core instruction from day one. By building a seamless, aligned bridge from teacher knowledge to core instructional practice and preventing reading difficulties before they start, we are living out our mission to dramatically improve literacy outcomes for every child in Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. Thank you for your continued leadership and support of Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools, and we're just getting started as we work on improving outcomes for our students. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for telling us that story. Thank you for every step along that difficult path. And you have shown that we can do hard things, and we can do hard things when we work together. So at this time, I'll open the floor. Would any of my colleagues like to make a comment, ask a question? Okay. Well, thank you again. We look forward to seeing Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools continue to achieve excellence. Thank you so much. Let's take a 15-minute break. We'll return at 10:10.
Thank you.
Test, test. Testing, test. That good? Check, check.
We're back in session, and we'll begin our committee reports with the Strategic Planning Committee, and I'll turn to the co-chair, Caddy Moore. Ms. Moore.
Good morning, thank you. Today's first agenda item, just want to sort of call everybody back to yesterday when we had a discussion regarding accountability, focused on student outcomes and school performance. So our next agenda item really highlights one of the conditions that makes stronger outcomes possible, and that is student attendance. Students cannot fully benefit from strong instruction, effective teachers, and academic supports when they are regularly missing instructional time. Chronic absenteeism remains a significant statewide challenge, with about 400,000 students who are chronically absent. That is roughly 1 in 4 students that have missed a month or more of school. Attendance should not be viewed as any kind of an excuse for school performance, but rather as an important and actionable factor connected to student achievement and growth. So a recent study from UNC Chapel Hill puts that connection in perspective. Research estimated that if student attendance had fully returned to pre-pandemic levels, statewide math scores could have recovered nearly 20% of the remaining gap from prior to the pandemic. The State Board's strategic plan identifies reducing chronic absenteeism as an important priority. The Attend NC Counts initiative, led by Dr. Sean Kellogg, who will speak with us in a moment, is focused not only on understanding the problem, but also identifying practical ways that schools can improve attendance. At our spring planning and work session in May, you will recall that Dr. Kellogg highlighted more than 300 bright spot schools that have made significant progress reducing chronic absenteeism. This summer, that work shifted to understanding what is happening behind the numbers and understanding the practices, routines, and relationships and decisions that are associated with improvement. Today, we have a panel of practitioners that will provide us with some information and an opportunity to hear directly from those school leaders about what those ideas look like in practice and what other schools might learn from that experience. As an additional note, Governor Stein recently issued a proclamation declaring September Attendance Awareness Month. His proclamation highlights not only the importance of regular attendance, but the shared role of schools, families, communities, and other partners in helping students get to school and stay connected to learning. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Sean Kellogg.
All right, thank you, Ms. Moore. Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, members of the board, advisors to the board, we have something super special for you today. And this is to help us kind of kick off Attendance Awareness Month. We're fortunate to have with us 3 principals that are going to share what has contributed to their school's progress in reducing chronic absenteeism. With some guidance from Rupin, we've actually formatted this as a panel discussion, so you have a little bit more time actually hearing from the principals themselves and the stories they have to tell and listen to their experiences. Before we kick off the panel, I'm going to provide just a little bit of context first to sort of set up our discussion. I wanted to start with a quote from Principal Stinson at Bearfield Primary School in Hertford County. He's one of our 7 bright spot schools that we've been learning from this summer. His words capture something we heard repeatedly in our conversations with school staff. I'll quote him directly and then I'll paraphrase as well too. But when students are not here, it's difficult to achieve academic growth. To put it another way, students can't benefit from effective instruction if they're not here to receive it. And they also can't benefit from all of our public schools have to offer. So Principal Stinson also put it nicely, instruction's cumulative. So it builds from one foundation to the next. And when absences start adding up, the instructional consequences add up with them. And that's what makes the scale of chronic absenteeism in North Carolina so consequential. So we've made significant progress from the peak in 2022 at reducing chronic absenteeism. But like Ms. Moore said, we still have 400,000 students that missed about 10% or more of the school year. So at minimum, that's about 18 days of school for a normal school year. But those who were actually chronically absent, on average, they missed about 30 days of school, 30 complete days of school. So almost 6 weeks of school. So those statewide numbers, they're definitely sobering, but they also hide a very encouraging story. So as Ms. Moore mentioned, in May, I shared with the board more than 300 North Carolina schools that were making better than expected progress at reducing chronic absenteeism. These attendance bright spots, they show how meaningful improvement is possible in very challenging circumstances in many cases for some of these schools. So in my office, we've been providing research-based planning guides, resources, reports, and schools for districts, but I think the greatest potential for improving chronic absenteeism actually lies within our schools. So this summer, my colleague Aaron Arenas at NC State University, I think he's in the audience, we've been meeting with principals and staff at several of these bright spot schools in the Northeast, trying to understand what has been contributing to their success. So today you're going to hear from 3 bright spot school principals about the strategies and practices contributing to their success. Before we do that, though, I just want to highlight the 7 schools that we worked with and provide just a little bit more context. Okay, so we initially focused on 7 bright spot schools, primarily in the Northeast. Their starting points were very different, but they all made significant progress reducing chronic absenteeism. The numbers indicated that something special was going on, but the numbers don't tell us why. So what we did was this summer we interviewed principals, counselors, social workers, data managers, and other staff at the schools to try to understand what was going on. And we found very different approaches across the schools. These ranged from parent outreach and daily check-ins to master schedule changes, weekly tracking, student pathways, multidisciplinary teams. But underneath all of these strategies, there were some common themes. Theme number 1 was the importance of building relationships with students and parents. Also noticing issues early and acting as a team to address them. And then finally, understanding the reason behind the absences so you can provide the appropriate response. So again, today we're fortunate to have Principals Willis, Riddick, and Hines with us to share what they've been learning and what this has looked like in their school, this work. Could each of you briefly introduce yourself, your school, and your role in supporting attendance? And Principal Willis, our STEM designee awardee, at Northeast Elementary, we're going to start with you, and then we'll work our way up to the middle and high school.
Thank you so much. My name is Tom. This is new. My name is Tom McWillis. I am the principal at Northwest Elementary School, where my superintendent is Dr. Steve Lassiter.
Good morning. My name is Alina Riddick. I'm the principal at Hereford County Middle School, and Dr. Jesse Pratt is my superintendent.
I am Tori Hines from Washington County High School, Plymouth, North Carolina, and our superintendent is Dr. David White.
Excellent. So we're going to start with our first theme that we sort of noticed across these several schools. Again, we interviewed 7 schools. Dozens of individual practices surfaced, but they tended to center around 3 main themes. And the first one, and the most prominent theme, the theme that we heard again and again, is captured by Principal Peel's quote at Bertie High School, was he phrased it really nicely. It's not a secret. It's about relationships, relationships, relationships. And that came through in nearly every school and every staff member that we talked with. So leading off with our first question, and let's focus just on part 1 of that question. How have stronger relationships helped improve attendance at your schools?
Okay, well, at Hereford County Middle School, relationships have been big for us. And we have conducted daily check-ins. We target our students, we tier them based on their attendance data. So we have those students that are foundational, so they're showing up to school every day. Those students that are trending, that means they're close to being chronically absent, and those students that are chronically absent. So what we did was we started check-ins with those students that were chronically absent and the ones that were trending, because we didn't want the students that were trending to become chronically absent. So they have an adult assigned to them, so they go check in with them in the morning to see if they're at school, and if they're not, then we'll make a phone call, just to check in with the parents, say, we're checking in, so-and-so is not at school today, how can we help if there's an issue, and also those students, when they return to school, me being a principal, even I had students that I checked in with. And so one young man in particular, he knew if he didn't come, he knows that Principal Rita is going to call his mother. So he made sure every morning, he's like, okay, Miss Riddick, I'm here. I'm like, okay, you here, we're fine.
Yeah.
And encouraging them to come to school every day, because in middle school, it's kind of, different, but we have to create the environment for them where they want to come, feel connected, and they have that voice when they come in the building. So that's what we really focused on at Hertford County Middle School, was those personal check-ins, making those connections with students. And they're excited about coming to school when they know somebody is there looking for them. So that was really big for us as far as the relationship.
Thank you.
And so kudos to you all, because we are very similar in terms of the check-in, check-out. And at Northwest, we believe that people matter. So yes, we're talking about students, but what about the parents, okay? Mm-hmm. And so once we find out that there are attendance issues, we deal with the students, but we go and make sure that the parents have all of the resources and things that they need. So here recently, we are an open enrollment school, and there is a family that is near and dear to my heart, but the mom is struggling with some mental health issues. And so what we've done is we've gone, we say, hey, we get you the transportation that you need, make sure that the students are here at school, and then what resources can we connect you to so that we can make sure that you are well enough to make sure that the students are coming to school. So yes, that's kind of what we've done so far.
At Washington County High School, we're just basically leading with love. It's a very small community. Everybody's related, everybody's a cousin or a family member. So, we're able to really put our hands on students and say, hey, what's going on with you going to school? Talk to the parents. We have our data managers that are really on us every day. They send out daily attendance calls to parents so they know every day whether their child is coming to school, whether they've been late. So that was instrumental, because the parents, they will call us and say, hey, my child, are they in school? Are they skipping? What's going on? So we make those checks and make sure that they're coming to school on a daily basis. But basically just making sure that we are having those communications with parents and with the students to let them know it's important to be here, and letting them know what's going on.
Yeah, so those relationships are super important. They came up across all of our interviews. They not only help the principals in genuine relationships too, not just communicating with parents and students, but building sort of over time, getting to know those students, getting to know those parents, and most importantly, building trust between the students and parents as well. So when you ask them what the problem is, they're willing to tell you, like honestly, so you can actually address it. So the relationships were important because like was mentioned earlier, they give students an additional reason to come to school. But Principal Hines, if you don't mind, I'd love to stick with you again too, because another way that the principals told us that they were helping to make the schools and give students reasons to come to school was building relevance into the school day. Do you want to talk about what you've been doing at Washington County?
Yes. When I first became the principal in Washington County in 2023, I spoke with an older administrator in the building, and he said, kids, they're not in school. He said 10 o'clock in the morning when I'm in the barbershop, the students are in the barbershop with me when they're supposed to be in school. I said, really? So what I did was I went to the barbershop one morning, and I saw a student while we're in there, and I was just talking to that student and saying, hey, what's going on with school? And they were telling me different things, and I was saying, well, you need to be there. So they're like, well, what about the schedule? So they were like, well, we have intervention first thing in the morning. So I don't do intervention. I was like, well, we need to do interventions. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm gonna take that. So what I did was I flipped intervention from being first thing in the morning to smack dab in the middle of the day. So that encouraged kids to come, because they were looking at that time as that's just a free period. No, that's time that you need to go ahead and get some additional assistance, whatever. So that was the first thing. Another thing that I did was make things relevant. A lot of the kids, I tried to talk with them, figure out what's going on with them, things that they like, even if things that I'm not really interested in. I make it seem like I'm all in to try to draw them into what we're trying to do. One of the things we did, in 2023 was, I think the first week that I came in, I believe it was the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So I said, okay, we're gonna make this a whole learning lesson. So we tied everything in for the whole week. We had activities dealing with hip hop. questionnaires, pep rallies, dress up like your favorite hip hop artist from the 80s and from the 90s. So it was a really big things. So it was very engaging, and people started coming in during Hispanic Heritage Month. I did the whole month. I did the announcements in Spanish and in English. So that was really good. The students were pulled into that. Right now, what we're doing in Washington County, we've incorporated the Ron Clark Academy house system, and we're noticing just within the first 3 weeks of school that kids are all in. They want to come to school. They want to do well for their house. So engaging student is like really important to make them feel like they're a part of the process of their own educational process.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can we go to the next theme, Rupen? And now we're going to sort of get into a little bit the nuts and the bolts. Principal Riddick, you touched upon this a little bit, but I'm going to quote Dr. Cole at East Carolina University's community school, and she kind of nicely summarized another theme that we heard consistently across the schools, and that's staff didn't wait for attendance to become a problem. Staff didn't wait for students to become chronically absent. And more importantly, the data alone were not enough. They had routines around using the data. Who reviews it, who contacts the family, who takes action next, who actually makes sure that people are going to follow through with whatever the response is to it. So if each of you can tell us a little bit about what happens when a student begins missing school, who notices, who responds, and how do you make sure students don't fall through the cracks?
So at Northwest, all of our teachers know that when a student misses 2 to 3 consecutive days, they go ahead and make a phone call, and they go ahead and send me, our school social worker, our assistant principal, and our counselor an email, and our data manager, just making us aware that they have been out consistently. And so from that point, then our school social worker will make contact with the particular family to kind of see what's going on. And then based on the information that is provided to us at our weekly meeting, then we decide strategies for that particular kid. So at Northwest, we also have a family resource center. So if it's things that they need and they're afraid to come to school because they may not necessarily have toiletry items or maybe smells or things like that, then we were able to say, hey, just come into our space. We will take care of you. We have washer, dryer, showers, whatever you need. We have it here at Northwest. We need you here at school. And so after that, we just continue to track that every single week.
And at Hertford County Middle School, we have a system similar to that following our Hertford County Public Schools attendance manual. So it's outlined for us what steps we follow. So after the first absence, the teacher will make contact with the parent. If the student continues to be absent, then it goes to the counselor. The counselor also make contact with the parent to reach out to set up a meeting, see, hey, what can we do to help you? If there's a barrier, if it's transportation, whatever you need, we reach out to our outside agencies to assist them as well to make sure they have everything they need to get their child to school. If it continues on from there, it goes to our school social worker, who would then do a home visit to make sure that everything is okay with the parent and the student. And again, whatever resources they need, we will work to try to get that for them so that they can get to school. But again, everybody is responsible. So as they're going through those steps, my assistant principal is notified, I'm notified, and it may be a situation where I may reach out to the family as well, say, hey, how can we help you? So we want to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on with the child before they become chronically absent and fix the issue before it gets to that point.
And it's along the same lines with us in Washington County. Our social worker has been extremely instrumental in that. They will get out into the communities. They have no problem with knocking on doors. So that social worker has been an integral part to maintaining our attendance.
Excellent, thank you. Principal Willis, you also mentioned a unique member of your team as well, too, a school interpreter that you have.
Yes.
That has been essential with some of the students at your school.
Absolutely. And so we have a school interpreter that is housed at Northwest. And when I tell you, she has been a blessing because we have a huge population of Hispanics there. So where I'm not necessarily able to communicate as well as I need to with that particular population, Her name is Mrs. Lozano. Shout out to her. She would call. She would go to their homes and figure out what's going on. And every single morning, the students that used to be absent, you would see them in the front office eating with her because she has built those relationships with those students.
Excellent. We're going to move on to our third and final theme. Looking beyond the numbers, trying to match a response, an appropriate response, to the actual reason why the student is absent. Again, this is something that we heard from all of the schools and was critical to their success. I'm going to summarize a quote from Principal Miller. He's at Farmville Middle in Pitt County Schools, who sort of touched upon this theme. Understanding what is actually driving the absences before deciding how best to respond. His interview was fascinating because it was really clear, again, along those relationship lines, that he really knew the students. If a student was at 10 days, if a student was at 6 days of unexcused absences, he was talking to them and trying to figure out what is going on, why are they missing, developing a plan and trying to figure out like what is going to get that student back in school. So I'm going to lead in with our final question here. How do your teams really understand what's happening, what's actually keeping a student from school, and how does that shape your response?
So at Hereford County Middle School, going back to our data, tracking that data, having conversations with the kids, having conversations with the parents, and like I said, if there's any barriers, trying to help them resolve those issues so that we can get them to school, because we need them to come, because all of our children need to be educated. So we need them there every single day. And just working with them and letting them know that someone in that building cares about their child, and we want to see them every single day. So going back to that data, tracking the kids, having those conversations, and just building our response around, what that family needs or what that child needs to keep them coming to school.
Sometimes as a principal, it can be frustrating when students don't come to school, but because of the relationships that we have been intentional about building, I have one particular student in mind. I now understand why they're not coming, or why they may be behaving the way that they do. And so once we're having those conversations, like she said, then versus Mr. Willis just hauling off and, being his, come at him like a daddy, I'm able to, respond with love and care and try to figure out the next steps to keep them at school consistently.
Yeah, piggybacking off of both of them is the relationships, just understanding where they're coming from, talking to people, and then putting things into action. One thing that we've done in Washington County over the last couple of years, we partnered with community and schools. So they've been a great asset to us as far as helping fill in the gaps of some of the situations that we have, to encourage those kids to come to school and to let the parents know that we have their back as well. Yeah. If they need to come to the school for anything, that we will do the best that we can so we can have their child getting a good education.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. Before we move into questions from board members and wrapping up, I just kind of want to summarize some of the things that we've been learning from our Bright Spot schools that we've been talking to this summer. One of the things that we've learned is that there's really no single attendance intervention represented here or in the 7 schools. We haven't seen any special programs. We haven't seen any funded vendor initiatives, any consultants, anything like that. Each school's been responding uniquely to their unique circumstances. We've talked about different strategies they've been using, different approaches, but there are several things that are pretty common across all the schools that we talked to. Number 1 was noticing early. Number 2 was understanding the reason behind the absence. They all had members of a team that were supporting them. And in many cases, it wasn't just the teacher that was the front line that was noticing the students. We heard, I think, several instances of bus drivers, for example, calling the attention that a student has moved to a new location and they've been missing. So the team is really important. The importance of creating those connections. Those connections are not only part of the reason why students want to come to school, but the relationships are important for understanding why the student isn't coming to school so you can respond appropriately. And then they've all mentioned the importance of follow through, setting up an intervention or response and then making sure that you carry forward with it. So relationships matter, so do routines, matching the response to the reason, and then assigning ownership to the response and following through with it. Ripon, we're going to head into questions from the board, but I want to finish with one sort of practical question for all of our principals here. Let's imagine a principal somewhere in North Carolina, there's hundreds of them, who says to themselves, I know attendance is a problem in my school, but I really don't know where to start. If that principal could do one thing tomorrow, what would you recommend that they do?
I would recommend that they start with their data, because your numbers are going to tell you, where you need to focus. Again, tiering those students, the ones that are coming every day, the ones that are trending nearly chronic, the ones that are chronic, starting with those students that are chronic because you want to keep them coming, and the ones that are trending that could become chronic because you don't want them to be chronic. And also, we talk about the students that are chronically absent, but what about our kids that are coming every day? Don't forget about them. Celebrate them as well.
Yeah.
And I know, and I'll speak on this too, at Hertford County Middle School, we do perfect attendance awards because those students, they need to be recognized for coming every day. And also, after our first 9 weeks, we start doing our improved attendance awards as well. So those students that have increased their attendance by 5%, they get recognized at our awards program. And when we do that, we have students that don't usually get an award. They get an award on awards day. So that's very, important for them and their families. So going back to your question, I would say definitely start with your data. And again, don't leave out your students that are coming every day, because you want to celebrate them too, to keep them coming every day.
To add to that, I would say make sure you are holding your team accountable, because as we all know, man, being in this seat, things just happen quickly. And so just making sure that we're holding every single person on the team accountable, and making sure that the phone calls are being made, the follow-ups are being done, and then allowing the team to even hold me as a principal accountable if I'm supposed to do something and I'm not doing that. So, yeah.
Piggybacking off of both of them is the same thing. Data, we have to have a roadmap. You have to know exactly where you are to know where you need to go. So examining that data, and then, like I said, holding people accountable, making sure that they're making those phone calls, and having them holding you accountable as well. That is key. And then, like I said, building those relationships with the parents, with the students, with everybody, with all of your community stakeholders, so we can ensure that these kids are getting to school.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We wanted to open up the floor to board members and address any questions they may have about what's happening in the schools, how they're responding, and what schools can do to support students and coming to school every day.
How can we make sure students, as a student, have a voice in developing attendance solutions rather than attendance policies being created solely by adults? So basically, how can we see someone that they can relate to, someone that they can see in their position?
So what we've done at Northwest is, we have the Student Leadership Council, where our students have a voice and they meet with our admin team. And so we will be specific and say, hey, what can we do to acknowledge you all for good attendance, and what can we do to help your friends get to school? So they may have some ideas that as adults we may not even think about.
And at Hertford County Middle School, my babies will tell me in the hallway, Miss Ridley, this is what I want. This is where we want to go, because my kids are, I don't know if you've ever been to Hertford County, but our students, they don't have a lot of resources. So it's like, Miss Ridley, we want to go here, we want to go there. So I'm like, okay, if a field trip is what y'all want, this is what we'll do. So that was one thing that, that became big to me. I said, okay, this is what you want. So like right now, this 9 weeks, they want to go to Busch Gardens. So I had a baby stop me in the hall the other day. He said, Miss Riddick, I gotta go to Kentucky. I have a family emergency. I don't want to miss school though. So I said, well, baby, tell your mom to call me. And I said, we'll talk about it. Cause he was like, he said, Miss Riddick, and he usually doesn't say anything about coming to school, but he was like, Miss Riddick, I need to come because I want to go. I said, okay, baby. I said, we'll work with you. So once you put those things in front of them and listen to them and let them have that voice, they will come to school. They're excited about coming.
I think what we've done at Washington County High School is we've tried to apply real life experience. So what we do is we make correlations. We have a lot of kids that work in local restaurants, things like that. And I say, hey, look, what if you came to work an hour late? What would happen? And they start to think about, well, I'm not going to get paid for that hour. I may even lose my job. Well, you need to apply that same concept to school. So they're thinking and they're being more introspective about how attendance in school is important, especially with them going into the workforce or some of them may be going to the military or into to school. So, they need to know these things before they move out.
Daniela.
Okay, my question was, so I know I have some students in my school that don't really connect with the teachers as well as some other students, so they're kind of they feel like an outsider, I guess. So how would you, and one of the biggest things that I kind of admired is you use those connections to your advantage when it comes to handling the absent students. So how would you go about handling a situation with a student who doesn't have those connections formed with the teacher, or maybe even a student who doesn't really have a choice when it comes to being absent, maybe working to provide for their family or having to help pay bills? And I had another question, but I'll let you guys answer that one first.
At Hereford County Middle School, to me, I would have my school counselor step in to see what we can do to support that baby as far as having that sense of belonging there at school, and finding an adult in that building that they can connect with. And then too, as far as like you mentioned about paying bills and things, we could connect them with an outside agency that can help that family in that particular situation. So we're willing to do everything that we can to keep our kids in the building and, making sure they're connected there at the school.
Yes, and it's the same with us at Washington County. We have people that they could actually go to connect with, but the main thing is we tell our teachers to sometimes they have to sit down and they have to pull a child to the side and have a real conversation with them. And a lot of times during those conversations, that's when we find out what situations. They may have a situation where they have to take care of a younger sibling or whatever, and they're not able to come to school because their parents have to work. And once we find out those things, then we can make accommodations, say, hey, we could possibly do this or whatever, but it's got to start with a conversation so we could go ahead and figure out what actually the student needs.
Did you have a second question?
They're working.
Okay, so this question probably might not have an answer because you guys already have really good plans in place. But I guess is there anything that you'd like to start or even add to the plans you have already that you're not able to, maybe because of not enough resources or staff or funding? For example, the translator, as having parents that only speak Spanish, that's a really big help. And I know my school would benefit from something like that, but they're probably just not able to because they can't hire anybody. It might not have an answer though, but also I really like that translator idea you guys have over there.
Any additional plans? That's a great question, by the way.
At Hereford County Middle School, I would say, I believe we have a really good plan in place right now. I don't think we need to add anything. I just think we need to continue perfecting it.
At Washington County High School, I definitely think that we're on the right track. One thing that we're going to try for this month, since we are instituting the Ron Clark Academy House System, is that we're going to tie those rewards to the house system. So with the students, would they see that, hey, look, we've had a majority of our students in the red house that came to school during this month. They may get some sort of incentive, where we'll do something for that specific house, and then we'll encourage the other houses as we're going, because we want to pull the whole school up, not just one house. Yeah. So that is one thing that I think that we're going to try to implement this year.
Thank you. Let me go Mr. Keenan, then Dr. Oxendine, and we'll go back to Keely.
I appreciate your comments and what are you doing, and I know it's great work that's already been done, got to be done. And as I listen to the things you're saying, in my mind I'm like, oh well, what are the commonalities between the students, whether your school, and what were the top 3 commonalities among these kids that become absent? Just 3 of them, the top 3, that cause that problem.
Most of mine was mental health.
Mental health was definitely a top with me, and school safety was an issue.
I would say mine would be parents not having resources, but once we're able to provide them with what they need, they'll start sending, their child to school and making that connection with them.
And how does poverty play into the same kids? What percent of your students absent would you say at the poverty level?
Well, the majority of my school is economically disadvantaged.
Likewise.
Yeah.
It's the same here. And, with that, it has a set of challenges within itself. But the thing is just recognizing, where we are, and then how we can support those people as much as we can. So that is the main thing, just trying to figure out where they are, what they have going on, because yes, we do have students that have to take care of, like I said, younger siblings, things like that, or they have to work themselves in order to support their households. So that plays a big factor, and also it bleeds into other areas, like even with parent engagement, because they have jobs and they can't come out to meetings, things like that. So there's a disconnect. So wherever the school could fill in the gaps, we're going to do that, so we could get those students to school and try to get those parents engaged as much as possible.
And a lot of our parents are working second shift, third shift, and so by the time it's time to get up in the morning, they're asleep and they're leaving the kids up to themselves to get to school. So that is an area that we're trying to focus on, to come up with some strategies to help them that way.
And my parents are the same.
Yep.
Would have a 1-home parent or 2-home parent, 2 parents home?
Percentage.
You took a wild guess.
I believe the majority of mine are single parent homes.
Depending on the population, majority are single parent homes as well.
Same, single parent, and we have a sizable population of students that they live with an aunt or a grandmother or a cousin or whatever. Yeah. So that does have a big impact as well.
Yes, I forgot about, we have quite a few children that live with grandparents as well.
And I appreciate that. And I just asked a question because I think sometimes the general public doesn't understand what makes these children up, and what they go through, and it's just not a simple
Right.
solution.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we all know, it takes a community to raise a child, and that's true. And I just wanted to let folks know the students that really are absent have legitimate reasons to be absent.
Yeah.
Because of all of you, you're changing their lives, and I thank you.
Dr. Oxendine and then Ms. Steele again.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to applaud you for being innovative and thinking creatively and out of the box and really tapping into to the community and to your families and whatever you're doing, it's coming together to make a difference. But I want to, maybe you've addressed this, but if you would readdress it, if you have, what kind of changes have you made in terms of grading policies? Let's say students who have missed enough days that it's affecting their grades. They've missed assignments, projects, homework. What have you made any changes in those areas?
Well, in our policy in Hereford County Public Schools, students have 3 days to make up assignments, once they've been absent. And a lot of our teachers have been working with students as well to make sure that they turn in those assignments. So, even if it may be longer than the 3 days, like I said, our teachers have really been working with students, working with parents to make sure that students get every opportunity that they can to turn in those missing assignments.
Good.
Ms. Steele and then Mr. Riddick. Were you done, Dr. Oxendine?
No,
Okay.
I think you were going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say the same. Our teachers know to give all of the students the opportunity to make up that work. We do not hold it against them. So I don't believe in that. Everybody has the same opportunity to make up the work, and then that still allows us the opportunity to see what learning gaps you may still have. And so if we don't give them that opportunity, then that has a negative impact on what they're doing in the classroom.
Same here. We do have a policy about turning in work, after being absent in Washington County as well. But since our community is so small and teachers know every student or every parent, they offer grace, and I tell them to offer grace because they know some of the situations that some of these students and parents that are going through. So that has been very important, just them understanding where these kids are coming from and then acting on that.
Are you bringing in, or have you thought about a way to maybe have tutors work with the students?
Yes, we do tutoring sessions. We do have after-school tutoring for our students. I think our main challenge has been transportation because we're kind of spread out. So it's, we're working through that with our transportation. So they've been able to provide bus shuttles going back and forth to school after school. So that's been working out as well.
At my school, we do tutoring during the day. Last year, our teachers worked with our students. When the students went to electives, the teachers would have them come back and they would do tutoring during that time because, again, like Principal Hines said, transportation can be an issue after school. So to cross that hurdle, we start doing daytime tutoring for our students.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you.
Ms. Steele and Mr. Riddick.
With it being acknowledged that mental health is one of the leading causes of absenteeism and low self-esteem being the leading cause of suicide and suicide being the leading cause of death among teens and grades 4 through 8, how can we make sure mental health resources are accessible to students in rural communities where counselors and mental health professionals may be limited and funding is not able?
So at Hereford County Middle School, our school counselor works with students as well. And if need to, they refer them to one of our outside agencies that we have. And sometimes that person from the agency may come to the school and visit the child if need be, if transportation is an issue for the parent.
And so what we have done so far in Pitt County and at Northwest, this year I was able to collaborate with some grant funders to be able to provide wraparound services. So we're going to be piloting a program at Northwest, thanks to the Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And so they'll be able to have virtual options that are available as well, because getting our parents to the school has also been a challenge. And so I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how that is going to go.
In Washington County, we have partnered with Agape, which basically provides services for health, and specifically mental health. If students are having issues or whatever, we have people right on site on campus that they could go and speak to. So that has been extremely beneficial for us.
Okay, Mr. Riddick and then Mr. Hall.
For addressing chronic absenteeism, particularly when the underlying cause extends beyond the classroom, how can school boards and community partners better support your efforts as principals?
I would say encouraging the community as a whole, making them aware of the importance of coming to school, and how critical it can be to a child's education when they don't show up every day. And like with middle school kids, like I keep saying, incentives are important for them. If you could donate something to us, something that students could work toward, that'll be greatly appreciated, to them, because we want to celebrate them for doing, good things. So making them aware, and if possible, if need be, donate something to us, help us keep them motivated, for, to come to school.
And I think more on a personal level, I know we all have our own lived experiences. And so I think for every school board member to take a moment to understand the why behind it, whether it's mental health, whether it's homelessness, and then once we understand why, how can I connect them to that particular resource? So if it's homelessness, then what resources can I help provide for that? If it's mental health, then how can I support that? So I think if school board members can understand the different reasons of why our students aren't coming to school, that would be helpful.
I think it's just being real with whatever situation you're in. We're not in a time where we could sit and we can basically just let things happen or just let things go by. If you have an issue in your school, we need to go ahead and fix it and hit it head on. And sometimes it gets ugly. Sometimes it's going to get really uncomfortable. But we have to be real on what is actually happening in schools, and then from there talk with our leaders and then try to figure out exactly what strategies we could use to actually improve, especially when it comes to attendance and getting kids to school, because there's so many different things that lead to why a student is chronically absent from school.
Mr. Hall and then Ms. Udiastegi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief. I just want to say also that to hear that quality, high impact tutoring is a good resource in dealing with these kids. But also, the one word that comes to me with our young people today is honesty. Being honest with them. Believe me, they can read your nonverbal better than anyone else. They know when you are honest and when you are real with them. And that's what they look for. But also we have to understand that our young people today have their own language, their own jargon. And a lot of times when they say things, we think it's an insult or we're trying to get back. Case in point, in my community, everybody knows me. But to them, I'm Mr. OG. I'm Mr. OG. I'm not Mr. Hall. I'm not Mr. Wendell. To them, I'm Mr. OG. And when I first heard it, I said, what are they talking about? But then it came to me what they were saying. And they'll see me anywhere. Hey, Mr. OG. Mr. OG, can I pump your gas? But one did do that. He didn't pay for it. He didn't pump it. But I hope that we can educate him the way he will be able to down the road. That's what these kids are looking for. And we have to understand that. But high impact tutoring, follow up, talking with them, and just outright letting them know you care about them. And let me shut up. But anyway, that's what I get from it. And I'm going to go back again because you know how I feel about it. High impact tutoring on those kids to help them achieve that they couldn't do because of whatever reason they couldn't attend school that day. Work, taking care of the siblings, you name it. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. OG.
See?
Ms. Uriastegui.
Okay, I had one last question. I was just wondering, because I know some schools, I've heard of them, how, like, if you have more than whatever absences, you can't join a sport or you can't do a certain club. So I was wondering, your guys' school, maybe not elementary school, because I don't think there's much to join in elementary school, but in the middle and high school, like, do you guys have those consequences, I guess? And if so, do you think they're effective? And if not, then what's your opinion on them?
Definitely at the high school level, we are following the rules set by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. So, you know, we had those conversations. I know this year when we do our sports, I have a meeting with all of the people, the parents and the students, so they'll know, hey, look, you only got 13.5 days. Once you go over that, you're ineligible. So, you know, I'm just really real with them and just letting them know, you know, I don't want to have to take you off the team, but if you have not done that, there's nothing that I can do. So them knowing that I'm going to say, hey, I look at 13.5, where you at? Where you at? So they know they need to come to school so they don't go with that threshold because they want to be eligible because sports is really big in our community. So everybody wants to participate. So they're doing everything they can just with that and with their schoolwork, trying to make sure that they're eligible.
And the same thing for middle school as well. Our coaches, of course, and admin meet with parents up front and let them know, you know, this is a requirement for them. And our coaches are really good about checking in on the students and make sure that they're coming to school.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. And a special thank you to the panelists for taking time out of your school day to come and let us know about all the great work that's happening.
Well, thank you, Ms. Moore, and to our principals, added thanks. You helped us better understand the why. So thank you. We support you all the way. Take care. Before we move to our committee reports, see there might be a few local superintendents in the audience. Would you mind standing so that we can thank you for your service to our students? Thank you for being here today, and even more, thank you for being there for your students and teachers every day. So we'll begin our committee reports with the Educator Excellence Committee, and I'll turn to co-chair Dr. Olivia Oxendine. Dr. Oxendine.
Mike, please. Oh, it does?
As you request.
Working, yeah, it's working. Thank you. It's green. Thank you, Chair Davis. I am Olivia Oxendine, co-chair of Educator Excellence, and joining me in that responsibility is Dr. Janet Mason. I do have, I'm going to begin with a question, and I'm going to ask if you will tell me what OG stands for.
Old guy.
Oh, okay.
There's some other phrases I'll leave out.
Moving right along. One item on the agenda for Educator Excellence, and it's an action on first reading, presented yesterday by Dr. Seiberg, and this pertains to the repeal of GS 115C-269.15, 15A, and all of that has to do with the, I'm just going to summarize it as being the requirement in the law and required the State Board of Education to build a lot of policies around the requirement for a praxis core in order to be admitted into educator preparation program, whether it be in our college, a college or university. So this particular item has to do with getting rid of all the language, all the wording, all the requirements that have been in policy. That no longer is the case. You do have an item in your material that actually shows you all the changes in that particular policy. Yesterday's presentation was just to the point. It was just a PowerPoint that gets down to the essence of that change. And as I said yesterday, and allow me, I don't want to be repetitive, but I think the point deserves a bit of emphasizing. It isn't that the State Board of Education is walking away and abandoning high standards for admission into our ed preparation programs by any means. We know that those standards have to be really, really tough and rigorous in order to ensure we have outstanding teachers in our classrooms. But what we're doing is rather sharing the responsibility for rigor with our institutions, with our schools and colleges of education, and knowing, expecting, and also knowing that they care as much as we do, because their teachers go, their candidates who complete the programs, they go into their regions across the state and in some places across the country to teach. So they have as much at stake as anyone, us, the citizens, the taxpayers of this state. So it's sharing the responsibility for being tough. When they interview these prospective candidates for teacher education, they're asking, will this person improve our brand? Not just the brand, but does this person have the potential to develop into a strong teacher and make our university and the state of North Carolina proud? So this is a sharing of the responsibility of rigor, not abandoning. So that concludes the report.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. The Educator Excellence Committee is bringing us one item for consideration today. Any questions on that item? Seeing none, we'll move to the Student and School Excellence Committee, and I'll turn to Co-Chair Caddy Moore. Ms. Moore.
Morning again. I co-chair this committee with Ms. Jill Kamnitz. We are bringing one item for action on first read today, SSC 1, which is approval of the accountability and testing results for the 25-26 school year. We had an extensive, lengthy presentation yesterday, 75 slides in the presentation, another 45 data tables attached, and a host of websites that we can go take a look at for every single school in the state of North Carolina. I'm going to highlight some of the bright spots from the summary of that report yesterday that is on action on first read. First, our graduation rate for the state of North Carolina increased from 87.8 to 88.8. That's a full percentage point. It is the fourth consecutive year of increases in this rate, and it is the highest rate since we've been measuring the rate in North Carolina history. A lot to celebrate there about our students being prepared for the next phase of their life. A couple of other items to summarize. The percentage of students who were proficient on reading and mathematics tests were the highest in the last 3 years for 14 out of 15 tests. The percentage of students who were proficient on science tests were the highest in the last 2 years for all 3 of 3 tests. Results for all race and ethnicity groups were the highest in the last 3 years when you look at that composite. All end-of-grade mathematics tests showed an increase in the percentage of students proficient for the current year and the previous 2 years. And we significantly reduced in the state the number of identified low-performing districts and the number of identified low-performing schools. While there is a lot to celebrate in the results that we saw yesterday, there's a couple of things that I wrote down and I think were really important to think about. And thank you for the presenters. Strong standards, strong instruction, strong outcomes for students. We want to make sure that we are looking at coherence as a strategy. That is very important, I think, because all the work that we do here and how it ends up in the classroom and in the heads of students is really what the work is all about. And then understanding that confidence in these results, pride in these results, is not complacency. We still have work to do, and we are ready to continue to do that work. So again, this item is being presented today for action on first read. Any questions there?
We have 2 additional action items that are coming before the board, presented by Matthew Mayo yesterday. The first one is the report to the North Carolina General Assembly on remote instruction plans. Any of our schools who are school districts who are planning to use and take access of the remote instruction days authorized in legislation must submit a plan for how they will use those days. And we present that to the General Assembly. That's SSC 2. SSE 3 is remote academy changes, and those are districts or schools that plan to offer remote academy, remote instruction, virtual learning options for their students. We had 2 changes, one request to open and one to close, and that is on action as well. We had several items for discussion yesterday. The first one was an update on the mathematics standards. This is draft 3, final review by the board that will come to us for action in the next month. The next item, report to the General Assembly again. This is the NC State Performance Plan and Annual Performance Report, Part B for state formula grant programs under IDEA. And here, as a state, we continue to be a state that requires assistance, and so we have developed plans for how we will provide support to our schools in order to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. That is also will come to us next month for action. The next one, SSE 6, is the report to the General Assembly on the child find census, the December 2025 federal child count. In both of these cases, SSE 5 and SSE 6, we are taking advantage of legislation that allows us to not write a completely separate report if we are providing similar information to the federal government on our data. So we're sort of actually seeing some economies of scale here in how we report. But SSE 6 really just identifies the number of newly identified students with disabilities in the state in the past year, as well as those who are still in the pipeline, those who were not found eligible to services, and the total number of students now eligible for services across our state. SSC 7 comes to the board every year as well. This is the Alternative Schools Accountability Model. Curtis Sonneman reported again on those districts that are choosing option, I think we settled on 1, 2, and 3, or A, B, and C. Where did we land? 1. Okay, A, B, and C. And so we approve the model that the schools choose if they are choosing not to participate in the regular accountability model, but are eligible to participate as an alternative school, and what that is. And then SSC 8. Also report to the North Carolina General Assembly that all of our districts are required to, as a result of legislation, provide their policy language and their adherence to legislation that limits the use of wireless devices during the course of the school day and the rules around that. So they have to submit to us what their plan is for adhering to legislation. As of yesterday, there were 5 PSUs that had not yet reported. We'll continue to work on those. This will come to approval for the board next month as well. We have 2 consent items on the agenda today. One is SSC 9, which is the International Sampled Assessment. A few schools in North Carolina are participating in an international assessment of progress. It is the TIMS test. We do not receive state, I don't even know if we receive state level data here. It'll just be international data that we will get as a result of it, which we certainly will report back on what that is. And then the last item, SSE 10, was the North Carolina Governor's School Board of Governors appointees for second terms. We had 2 people that were coming for approval as a second term on the Board of Governors that will be on consent today. And then want to just again thank Ms. Uriastegui for her firsthand report on her experience in governor's school and reminding us all of what a fabulous program it is, how important it is to our schools and students, and drumming up additional support for that moving forward. So thank you. And that completes the items that we have and we bring today.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. The SSE committee is bringing us 5 items, 1 through 3, and 9 and 10 for consideration today. Any questions on those items? Hearing none, we'll turn to the Business Operations Committee led by Vice Chair Duncan. Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Along with Co-Chair John Blackburn, we had 14 items that we covered yesterday. We're going to have 7 matters on action on first read, and there's one that we are going to defer and turn into a discussion item and actually vote on next month that we covered. As I start, I do want to say I really appreciate the presenters and the attendance discussion. I also appreciated our student advisors with the great questions they had during that. It made it an even better presentation, so thank you for that. BizOp 1, our first item is approval of contracts over $500,000. We have one item there, which is the NC Ed Cloud Identity and Access Management Services that enables secure authentication, authorization, and management of our security efforts, our IT products, and so it's a cybersecurity, one of the cybersecurity protections. This is a one-year contract that's been provided by this service for several years. This is a one-year extension. This particular service is going to be subject to an RFP likely in the next year, and therefore it's only a one-year contract this time. And that was presented by Kevin Violet from our IT group. BizOp 2 is a digital learning grants recommendation for grant funding 2026-27. This is an annual item. Lindsay Sipe is our presenter on this for the digital learning programs. And there were 5 schools selected after a review of the rubric, and there was discussion about that process, also discussion about important to try to have a diversity of schools that are provided the benefits pursuant to the quality of the grants that are written. And there's also been very good effort at support to grants for systems that don't have as many resources for grant writing as some districts do, to try to participate in this program. So there were 5 grants that were provided, and they're of some significant amount, and they were in very much different parts of the state. BizOp 3 was a report to North Carolina General Assembly. It's a consolidated report on teacher bonus programs, and there are several of those. Beth Cross led this report. We also heard from Sneha Shaw Coltrane, Trey Michael arrived on the scene as the questions started coming, and Tom Tomberlin also presented. So we had several people who assisted on this because it covers several different bonuses. It covers the IB, AP, Cambridge bonuses, the CTE bonuses, and other bonuses. And we had a discussion of what the amounts were, how the payments were to be made, what the timing of the payments was, where the money was coming from. I think there were a number of very good questions that the board members asked that made clear that it's not going to be the same amount every year for various reasons, the way the program is set up. And it is funded, but it's funded in a way that the number of people who qualify may alter the amount of money that could be awarded, and things of that nature affected on a year-to-year basis. One of the things that's asked is, on an annual basis for this report, is does this create retention of people? That is, the bonuses have the effect of assisting and retaining our teachers, and there has not been a way to be conclusive about whether or not it has that effect, and that's been true over a period of time. It's very hard to try to discern that from the information that's been given. Certainly the bonuses are appreciated by those who receive them. There are a number of people who don't receive bonuses who probably would appreciate receiving them also, and that's another issue with respect to these bonuses. We now move on to BizOp 4, which was the first of Amanda Fratrick's 3 excellent summations of a very complex set of policy amendments. The first one was this allotment policy manual, and she went through the primary changes that were created by the legislature's most recent action, and went through those pretty carefully. There were questions that went a long way about several of these, and it's fair to say that there's a number of these things are not fully understood what the effect will be as we go forward into the next year. But we certainly understand how they're going to be dealt with from our standpoint and from an allotment standpoint, so our policy is clear, consistent with the statutes that were passed. I'm not going to try to review all of those because we would be here for a while again. I think we really did spend a lot of time on them yesterday. Biz Op 5 is the policy amendment on school attendance and student accounting manual. Again, this was presented by Ms. Fratrick, and the policy amendment here focused on several things, including definitions of an attendance, issues as granular as whether or not on a student test day, if a student's waived out of a test, whether or not they still have to report to school, and for attendance purposes, and according to our manual, at least state policy, the student would still have to report under those circumstances and be assigned to whatever instruction may be available. The Biz Op 6 is the employee salary schedule, again presented by Ms. Fratrick. As we looked at that overnight, based on some questions that came up, Ms. Fratrick's not here today, but Ms. Schaus is here to make one small correction on what we will vote on with respect to Biz Op 6.
Thank you, Chair Duncan. We would request that we would like to amend the language on page 75 of the manual, which is page 17 of the PDF, the last page of the document. It currently reads monthly salary divided by daily rate of pay, and we would request that that's amended to monthly salary multiplied by the daily rate of pay.
Thank you for that change. So we are going to be voting on this policy exactly as it is, but our mathematicians came to the fore and decided it should be multiplied and not divided. So I think our review of the math standards helped us to really focus in on this yesterday. In any event, thank you, Ms. Schaus, for that. And so that you will be voting on that with that one small change. Biz Op 7 is the one that we are not going to vote on this month. That has been turned into a discussion item, and there'll be some further careful review on that. It will come back to us next month as an action item. Biz Op 8 was the CTE grade expansion program grant application recommendations. As you saw, there were a lot of requests, and there are two kinds of grants. One of them is the expansion grants that comes from EWIC, which is voted on and approved by the state board after EWIC's recommendations. EWIC's recommendations are done pursuant to a set of priorities that include giving priority to previous winners who reapply. So there were 52 expansion grants, all of them, because it's a popular program once you get in, all of them went to previous winners of the grant who reapplied for continuation, and according to the priorities, those are the ones selected, and therefore those are the ones that have been recommended to us. There are another set of grants that we were reported on by Jacqueline White, who reported in this area, and those are the innovation grants, and EWIC does those grants. They report and let us know, but those are approved by EWIC the way the legislation is set up. We now move to action items. Biz Op 9 was the policy amendment, designation of rules, the establishment of state board policy, and definition of state board policy. You'll recall we had a pretty extensive discussion of those amendments or those additions last month. We did not have any additional questions that came up for discussion this month, so it is before us now as an action item to be approved today. We had three discussion items. The first one had to do with, again, rules, and they are the rules for attendance, and they're closely linked, obviously, to the report we got on the policy amendment for attendance, Biz Op 5. And these rules are always time permitting, which is virtually all the time, are discussed first, and then we come back and make them an action item at the next meeting. These are rules trying to reflect some of the changes in policy with respect to attendance, and we will consider those for action next month. Biz Op 11 is the Exceptional Children Competitive Grant, which is a state-level targeted assistance. Dr. Carol Ann Hudgens, our Senior Director of the Office of Exceptional Children, presented on this. And this is a total of $8.3 million in grants. So it's very significant for exceptional children grants, and particularly significant in the area of training and professional development, as well as other important areas to support our EC work. There were 230 applications received. There were 132 applications awarded. Those applications came from 162 different PSUs. 95 of the PSUs received an award for the grants. There are also, and those grants totaled $7.54 million for the school age funds. There are also preschool funds that are awarded in a total amount of $785,000 for that. And we were able to fund 55% of the requests that were made for the preschool funds in that total of $785,000. So again, those are annual. We're very, very grateful to have that as an annual resource for our EC kids, and that was the recommendation that will come before us next month after the discussion, so you'll have time to take a closer look at those and those recommendations. BizOp 12 is the 21st Century Community Learning Center program cohort. This was just to authorize the request for proposal to go ahead and move forward. So the primary focus really is any revisions made to the priority points as part of the grant application process. There were some revisions made. They were based on the strategic plan points of the 8 pillars and any rules changes that have been made with respect to the program. And those will be before you next month for approval with respect to the various changes in presentation. There is a continuing focus there as well to make sure that these grants are spread around the state. It's very important to us, and particularly since the availability of high-quality grant writers is not universal to every district, and we acknowledge that, know that, and want to be attuned to that fact. We then moved to consent items. BizOp 13 was presented as the full-time equivalent student calculation. It's a report that has become an annual report, and it is a consent item because it is, at this point, a fairly standard report, and there are no changes this year with respect to how the calculations were done. BizOp 14 is a certification of North Carolina finance officers, and we were quite pleased to have 2 new certified financial officers. That brings a total to 15 this year, which is very exciting. And the unfortunate piece of corresponding news is we've lost 15 this year, so we're only breaking even, and we have a lot of important vacancies there. That is an incredibly important role in each of our districts, and so we need to continue to emphasize the training that was discussed when we get to our final item. There were no questions on contracts, but we made the report for executed and planned contracts. On our budget report, Ms. Schaus gave an excellent year-end closing report with respect to budget issues, which included some of the details about the finance officers, the status there, and the training that's being used. It's been put together between the NC ASBO group and the North Carolina School of Government to help train particularly new finance officers around the state. School accounting is a little bit unique compared to other accounting, and so having that training is particularly important, even for people who may already be skilled as accountants. Nevertheless, that training becomes important. I think Ms. Schaus was able to bring out that, I think her words were, let us never have a year again like this where there was no budget at all. And so it made it very difficult going through that year, and made it difficult preparing for the budget this year. But our budget has been finalized, prepared, and our audit review has gone extremely well. I hope everyone noted that our staff, led by Ms. Schaus, but all her colleagues, won a number of awards for the quality of the work that they do in such an important area. When we talk about how important local CFOs are, well, we can multiply by about 12.8 billion for how much it's important that we have high quality at the state level. So it's very important in both places, and the school systems depend upon. It's not the thing we talk about the most, but it's a thing that, if, as we heard from Winston-Salem today, if things go in the wrong direction, it can create an extreme amount of difficulty for any district. So we value tremendously the work that's being done on that. The legislature did not include the $2 million they've used for training in the past year, so we are having to work in various ways to try to make sure that training stays in place for the new financial officers, and we hope that perhaps the legislature may reconsider, given the importance of this position and the need for highly skilled, experienced, and trained personnel. We are hopeful that perhaps we can get some of that renewed in a future budget. The budget report was extremely helpful. We went through reversions, which I'm going to say, I've spent a lot of time doing this, and reversions are not, they don't come to you just uniquely as, oh yeah, I understand that, or why it would be a good thing to have some reversions. It is a good thing to have some reversions, but it doesn't feel like it when you're reverting. And then we were able to get some carryover on some of those funds, and that's very helpful for in a number of different areas that we got some carryover. But I appreciate the explanations of what is not a always completely intuitive process, but is a process that is very good for us to understand and have explained, because we're still talking about significant sums. We were in the 1.1% to 1.2 to 1.4% area where you want to be with respect to reversions on a standard basis, and so that also fit. I would conclude by saying we are extremely fortunate to have folks who are working for us in the business area with such skill and dedication and hard work. You talk about closing the books in July, getting ready to close the books before that, and going through that process and going through auditing, and that's happening in the districts too. We should all remember them. That's an enormous task, and it's a complicated task. A lot of these policies are complicated to carry out, as we did our various multiplications and divisions yesterday and could see that. So we're extremely grateful for all the work that's being done that make this work. And that concludes our report, unless there are any questions, Chair Davis.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. The BizOp Committee is bringing us items 1 through 6, 8 and 9, 13 and 14. Any questions on those items? Seeing none, we'll move to the two items in the Chair's report. The first, pursuant to State Board Policy SBOP 006, we elect the Executive Committee of the Board every September of even-numbered years. So in the voting agenda at the end of this meeting, we will conduct nominations and hold that vote. The second item concerns our consideration of the Catawba County Commissioners' proposal to merge the 3 school districts in Catawba County. And for that, I'll turn to our General Counsel, Tiffany Lucas.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, State Board of Education members, and advisors. I'm here to present to you a recommended timeline for the State Board's review and consideration of a proposed merger plan submitted to it by the Catawba County Board of Commissioners, which would consolidate and merge 3 local administrative school units. Those are Catawba County Schools, Hickory City Schools, and Newton Conover Schools into a single countywide district. Per the proposed merger plan submitted by the Catawba County Board of Commissioners, the effective date of the merger would be July 1st, 2028. Before I present to you the particulars of the staff's recommended timeline and process of the State Board's review, I will briefly provide some background information and a summary of what has transpired to get us to this point today. As I mentioned, the Catawba County Board of Commissioners has submitted a proposed merger plan for the State Board's review and approval. The proposed merger plan was voted on and approved by the Catawba County Board of Commissioners following a public hearing by that body on April 20th, 2026. Through council, the County Board of Commissioners submitted the proposed merger plan to the State Board on June 25th, 2026. The submission from the Catawba County Board of Commissioners included an opening brief alongside the proposed merger plan. The Board of Commissioners then updated its submission to the State Board on July 7th, 2026. So you will recall that at the state board meeting in August, the state board confirmed receipt of the proposed merger plan and indicated that it would provide additional information about the timeline and process for its review of the proposed merger plan at the September meeting. That brings us to today. So the timeline and process for review that staff is recommending to the state board would allow the 3 affected local school administrative units to submit briefs and materials to the state board by October 5th, 2026, approximately 30 days from today. Then the Catawba County Board of Commissioners would have 3 weeks, that is until October 26, 2026, to submit a reply brief to the state board. The proposed merger plan would then come before the state board at its November meeting as a discussion item. This will allow the state board time to review the materials submitted by the parties in advance of the meeting to help inform your discussion. The state board would then have a hearing on this matter at its December meeting. Each party would be given time to present, followed by questions from the state board. Thereafter, the state board would deliberate, seek counsel as needed, and vote on whether to approve the proposed merger plan. In staff's estimation, this recommended timeline and process ensures that the parties are given sufficient time to submit the materials they want considered to the state board. The recommended timeline also gives state board members the opportunity they need to carefully and thoroughly review the materials that are submitted to them. Finally, this recommended timeline and process is consistent with the timeline followed by the state board the last time it was called upon to review a proposed merger plan submitted to it by a county board of commissioners. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lucas. Questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, anything else you would advise us on this matter?
This will come up for a vote, and I would ask that you accept staff's recommendation to adopt this proposed timeline and review process.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lucas. This will be on our action agenda in the next few moments. Okay, that concludes the chair's report and the committee reports and moves us to consideration of our action items and action on first read and consent items. At this time, I ask if there's a request to remove any item from consent action or action on first reading agendas for separate vote. Seeing none, I request a motion to approve the following: the State Board of Education monthly meeting draft minutes for August 5th and 6th, 2026, the Educator Excellence Committee, Item 1, Student and School Excellence Committee, Items 1 through 3 and 9 and 10, Business Operations Committee, Items 1 through 6, 8 and 9, 13 and 14, the limited license and initial professional license approvals requested in closed session last evening, and the timeline for consideration of the Catawba County Commissioners' proposal for merger as presented today. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Oxendine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lieutenant Governor. Any discussion on this matter, on this motion? Seeing none, Mr. Fafaria?
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz? Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes our agenda item for today, with the exception of the elections for State Board Executive Committee. And for that, I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Fafaria.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you also Superintendent Green, who as Secretary to the Board has duly designated me to run this portion of the agenda. Pursuant to State Board Policy SB OP 006, which addresses the Board's rules of procedure, every September of an even-numbered year, the State Board is charged with electing from its membership a chair and a vice chair. These positions serve for a 2-year term and until a successor is elected. At this time, I open the floor for nominations for chairperson of the North Carolina State Board of Education.
I nominate Eric Davis to continue as our chair, and I do so with a great deal of gratitude for the excellence with which he has handled that role for several years now.
Thank you. Nomination by Vice Chair Duncan.
Make a motion, Ms. Farrell, to close the nomination on the said one name.
Motion by Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Blackburn. Any discussion? Seeing none. Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz? Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
At this time, I will open the floor for nominations for Vice Chairperson of the North Carolina State Board of Education.
At this time, I'd like to take the honors and the privilege and the joy of nominating my great friend, Alan Duncan, as the Vice Chair of the State Board of Education.
Once again, I make a motion that we close the nomination on the said one name.
Motion by Mr. Hall. Is there a second? Second by Lieutenant Governor Hunt. Any discussion? Seeing none. Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz? Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore? Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. That concludes that item. Thank you, Mr. Fafaria and colleagues. And at this time, that concludes our work for the month. I want to thank the staff at DPI for all your hard work in preparing this month's meeting, as well as those from across our state who came to join us at this month's meeting. We will meet next month. It's the time for our semi-annual, well, for our fall planning and work session. So we'll meet on September 29th and 30th with our official meeting on October 1st. This time I call for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. Mr. Fafaria?
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz? Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes.